Good day, and welcome to the 2012 Abacus Users Conference. This session relates to the Human Resources module and the Online Web Employment Application System. This is a brand new product from Argo Software, and I'm excited to be here to demonstrate it for you today. My name is Dottie Lucas. I'm with Transport Data Systems. We've been a reseller of Argo's products for the past 22 years. And it's a pleasure to be with you here today. Today's session has been broken down into four main categories: the collection of application information, application management, tracking qualifications, and tracking various events. You can see under each section a number of separate bullet points that we'll cover today. The applications that we're discussing are employment applications. As far as application collection, applications may be collected via the web. That was the online web employment application we were discussing in the very beginning. There's also standard data entry that can be performed to input the applications into the system. Once those applications have been captured, you'll want to be able to find qualified applicants for various positions that you have open within your company. And once you've found a qualified applicant to interview, you'll want to verify that application information is correct. You'll want to be able to take advantage of the information that's collected through the application process and apply that information to personnel records as people are hired. So instead of having to re-enter information, the application information that's collected will transfer into these new personnel records. As a part of those personnel records, there are expirations and various other qualifications that need to be tracked based on that employee's position. And over the time that a person is employed, there are various events that may need to be tracked as well. Various trainings that are given, attendance at various meetings, incidents, violations, accidents, different events that you find need to be contained in their personnel records. I'll begin this section on online employment web applications, or application collection, by discussing the web online employment application system. From the diagram on the screen, what you'll notice is that any information entered online automatically populates in the Human Resources module. The application allows for flexible configuration, where you can set up different job locations that people would apply to, different positions at each of those locations that people can apply for, the various job descriptions that follow each of those positions, and a list of work requirements so that if a person's applying for a position, they understand the requirements of the job. There's also restrictions within the program that allow you to set whether or not a particular position requires a CDL license or does not. The online web application system allows for applicants to apply for multiple positions or at multiple locations or both within a single session online. It's also a wonderful tool for pre-qualifying applicants online so that they cannot apply for positions they are not qualified for, such as if they do not have a CDL, they cannot apply for a position that requires a CDL license. It also allows you to only take applications then for positions being hired for. So that would mean on the online web application, you would only list positions for which you are hiring. And last but not least, taking these online applications allow you to go paperless in that area, going green. This is an example of some customization that you set up yourself. On the left, you'll see various locations. On the right, you'll see various positions. The positions on the right are the job offerings that you're placing on the web related to the location listed on the left. So as an applicant chooses a location they wish to apply for, they will see the list of open positions and opportunities that they can then apply for. Within each position, you're able to list the job description and a person to notify when that application is received. That person to notify is the person in your HR department who should be notified whenever new applications are received via the web. You'll also notice the checkbox for CDL position that indicates whether or not this position requires a CDL license to be applied for. Once the application information has been collected, there are a number of things that you may wish to do with that information. When a new application has been received, you may wish to automatically notify a manager in a particular location within HR that a new application has been received. You may wish to print that application form for follow-up purposes to check out references, prior employment. You may wish to email that application to a manager in a different location. One of the most important things you're looking to do is to locate qualified applicants for positions that you have open. When you've located an applicant that you wish to interview, you may wish to go through verifying their application information. If everything checks out, you may wish to go ahead and flag that application as being accepted, or if things don't look like they should, then you may wish to reject that application. And lastly, you'd like to go ahead with hiring particular applicants to fill positions you have open. The Human Resources module is written in the .NET technology. The example screen that you see here is the application form entry screen. There are various tabs throughout this screen to detail out the different areas of the application form. We have the basic name and address information. We have whether or not they're able to work in the U.S., provide proof of age, whether or not they've worked for your company before, what their highest level of education would be, and then these various tabs across the middle that state which positions they're applying for and at which locations they're applying. Previous address information, where they've lived previously. Previous employment information, where they've worked previously. Driver's license information, whether again they hold a CDL license or not. Previous driving experience, if they're applying for a driving position. Accident and incident or violation information. To print an application form from the system, we can choose Print at the top of the screen with Print Employment Application selection. An example of that application form will appear on the screen. The application can be sent to the printer of your choice, or, as we mentioned earlier, may be emailed to someone in another location. The .NET technology is a very powerful set of tools. What you'll see along the left is our menu system. I'm going to open another menu item at the same time that I already had the application form entry loaded. You will see across the top of the screen that .NET will line up each screen next to each other so you can toggle between them as you need to. The screen that we are loading next is the Application Information Management screen. This is the screen that we will use to locate qualified applicants for the positions you have open. The Options button allows you to save and load macros as you need to. I'm going to load a macro where I'm querying for the Fresno, California location for anyone who's applied for a water truck driving position. So I've told it not to include any rejected applications. I would like all of the locations that start with Fresno and positions that contain the word water. I have 2 applicants that I can review. As I click from line to line, the information along the bottom of the screen changes to apply to the person or the applicant at the top that I'm selecting. Throughout the various screens of the HR or any .NET program, we're able to customize it as needed for each individual person using the program. For example, I'm going to add telephone to my grid here. I'm now going to save that layout so that it looks that way every single time I come into the system. As I review the application information down below, if I feel that this is a qualified person, I now have their phone number to give them a call to see if they'd like to come in for an interview. If I'd like to call up their application record in a screen where I can edit the information or add more information to it, by double-clicking on the record for the applicant, it loads their application record automatically for me. If I'm checking references such as this previous address to make sure they in fact lived at these locations in the past when they say that they did, I can now come in and enter notes related to whether or not this information was verified, the date that it was verified, any reference or person that I spoke to, and who the person was who was doing the approving of this information. And then any notes that I would like to add to this record. And save. If I'm through verifying the information for this application, I can now change the status of the application to either be received and completed, in process of some kind, whether or not I've offered the position to them, whether or not they're hired, or whether or not this application has been rejected. I'm going to go ahead and say that this has been received and completed. I've now been returned back to my management screen. Let's say that I wish to query for another type of qualification. I'm going to click the Find button. Again, I'm going to use my options and load some macros that I have out here. I'm now looking for anyone who applied to the Fresno, California location who also has a hazmat endorsement. I only have one applicant, and I can repeat the process shown previously. If you have a large number of applicants, using this management screen tool is one of your most valuable ways to finding qualified applicants for the positions you need to fill. As an HR manager, the management screen for applications is virtually limitless, whether I'm looking for someone who has a CDL license, like this, or whether or not I'm opening up a new terminal in a new state and would like to know if there are any applicants from this new state, in my case, Nebraska in this example, and there are. So the tools are virtually limitless. If we have gone through the process of pre-qualifying the particular applicant and decide that we wish to hire them, just like we've shown previously, we can launch that person's application record and go about flagging them as being hired. We can fill out some reference information, the date that we offered them the position, the rate that we offered per hour, salary, whatever it is, the position offered, the actual hire date, and then we're going to get to our next section here related to personnel members and the qualifications that relate to them. The next area of the HR module we'll be discussing is the qualifications and personnel area. At this point in the process, we've hired an individual to take a position with the company, and there are particular qualifications that need to be tracked based on the position they were hired to fill. To follow down the bullet points listed, we're going to go about showing you that we can create qualification checklists that are very specific to different positions. We can attach those qualification checklists to that person's application when we create them into a personnel member. We're going to go about creating a personnel record, and at that point you can set up a task agent job as well to auto-notify, let's say, your payroll department of the new hire. We'll be entering expiration information. We'll be showing how we can query for expiring qualifications. We can print expiring qualification reports, and we have notifications of expirations to other departments such as dispatch. As we discussed previously, the .NET technology allows us to open up multiple screens at the same time. Along the left-hand side, we see our menu. On the menu is a qualification list area in the code section. I'm going to launch that screen, and you can see that it's now lined up across the top here. I'm going to do a find in this particular screen and show all of the different qualification lists that I've established for this demonstration. We can see that there is a DOT qualification list as well as a clerical list. I'm going to go ahead and load them all so we can see the differences between the two. We start out by giving the list a name and a description. From there, we save the record and we start creating details. Each of these details has a group associated with it. Within that group, you can give it a code, the qualification a code, and then a description 1 and description 2 set of information. Whether or not the qualification type is an informational type of piece of information, a tickler kind of information, or an expiring type of qualification is completely up to you. You can also indicate if this particular piece of information belongs in a particular file within the HR office. Confidential file, a driver qualification file, an employee file, a personnel file. These are all defined by you. These qualification lists can be printed from the top print button where we choose to print the checkoff sheet. This is an example of a particular qualification listing. So you can see that our groups are what produce these boldened headings here. And then each code that you create creates a line item on the particular form with checkboxes on either side for your use, whether for initials or for checking them off when completed. The importance of the qualification listing is that you can define a preset listing of qualifications that need to be completed every single time a particular person is hired for a particular position. I'm going to go back over to our application form entry screen, and I'm going to look at the person that we said that we hired here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a particular qualification list to this particular record. So I'm saying that they're being hired for a DOT qualified position. I'm going to go ahead and click Save at this point. The point for doing this is now when I convert them into a personnel record, it's going to automatically apply all of those different qualifications to this new personnel record. All of the information captured on the applicant's form, the application form, will auto-populate in the personnel screen for us. You can see that all of the information in this lower left-hand area came in automatically from the application form. There's just a few pieces of information that I need to add myself, and I'll just do that here. Indicate whether or not they're full or part-time. They're currently not terminated, so I don't want to fill that in. And when I go ahead and click Save, that information now has been updated. As we click on the various tabs for driver's license, we can see that everything related to that person's driver's license has come over automatically, including all of the endorsements. I can go into the Positions tab here and see if they've had any other information entered there. But more importantly, what I want to show is the Qualification tab here. All of those detailed pieces of information regarding this person's qualifications have been entered automatically onto this new person. As the qualification items are completed and received, we can enter that information next to each qualification, indicating the date received and whether or not the information in our files is completed. For qualifications that are of expiring types, we want to be sure that the date that we include on that record is the actual date that this information will expire. Finally, you'd like to be able to get out all of the information as needed from your qualifications. In this example here, I'm using a stored macro to pull up all expiring type qualifications. This macro says include all personnel members who are active with expiring type qualifications. I can bring all members, all records, into the grid. We can choose the Show Group by Box, and you can put whatever you would like up in that box, and it will sort by that group. You can expand that group so it lists what your group is and all the details that follow underneath it. We can ungroup. Let's say I want to do a find again. This time I'll use the same macro for expiring qualifications, but let's say that I wish to print or list just the qualifications that expire through a particular date. In this example, I only have 2 records that fall within that expiration date. Once I have the list in front of me that I wish to print, I can right-click anywhere in the grid, choose Print, and get a report. This report can be printed, emailed, just like any other report within Insight. Let's say that I need this particular report exported to Excel. In the same way that I printed, I can right-click on the grid, choose Export, Export to Excel. This concludes the Personnel and Qualifications portion of the HR module.